There we go. Topic for tonight is innovation and diversificate and diversifying. So the reason why I enjoyed this session a lot is because people get to go from their year one, year two, or even their year three phase after collecting data, information about their sales, learning what works and what doesn't work in terms of their marketing strategy. They get to innovate, they get to do something different. And I think that part is important because we need to learn to continuously evolve. I think part of the unfortunate part about the human condition is that we oftentimes want to strive for this state of stagnation, right? We want to achieve this kind of paradise on earth where once we achieve this goal, and we can just coast through life the rest of the way. And the reality is that's just simply not how life works. And that's especially not how a business works. If a business is not ever evolving, or at least keeping up to date, changing, innovating, even if a little bit slowly, they become obsolete. Things will inevitably change. Ideal conditions of yesteryear will not be ideal conditions for today or even for tomorrow. And so it's important that we practice a habit of seeing what are some areas that I can improve on and what are some areas that I can change if necessary. So that way, if we get hit with another plague, or if your local community changes, the demographic changes, you're able to shift and pivot with a lot more grace compared to how some people are doing it. So, one common mistake that I see farmers make is that they do not innovate and they do not diversify. It literally has killed farms. There are farms that got really complacent with doing things one type of way. And when things change, when the environment changed, when the economy changed, they fell under. They were only doing one thing really well, not focusing on the future. And then the future came and they had no way of paying the bill for it. So common mistakes that I see within that are people who focus on small markets. So this would be, let's say you started at a local farmers market, and at the heights, after looking at your data, looking at your analytics for the year and your sales, and we talked about using platforms like Square to kind of track your sales records. If you look at the end of the year and you're like, okay, so I averaged $100 a market. I averaged $200 a market. I averaged $300 a market. I averaged $1,000 a market. I've had those. Um, how can I grow? A lot of people stay in markets that were really just kind of these starter starter opportunities, but they stay there. And so you can go to your local farmers market, and in most cases, you'll see people who are sitting there for hours. And then there are hours of preparation beforehand and hours of breaking down, driving back home, putting stuff away that didn't sell. It could literally be 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours of your time. But these are the same people who are only making $100 a market, 200, maybe even $500 a market. But all the time and energy that they put in just to get there, whatever money they made, it wasn't worth it. So part of analyzing your sales from last year, at least what you have, or even like the last 6 months, allows for you to say, huh, okay, this market's okay, but I need more money to survive off of. I got cattle to feed. I got babies to feed. I got a spouse to feed. And this market, although it was loyal and although it was a great opportunity to make small mistakes and learn lessons, I can't stay here anymore. I need to figure out what can help me generate more income. There aren't enough people coming into this market. I need to find the bigger market. All right, that might mean I have to drive an extra 30 minutes. Am I willing to do that? What's the opportunity cost going to look like? What's the return on investment going to look like? So again, People who stay in their little small markets, they will never grow. They will never be able, they kind of have like this short ceiling, so to speak, where they might be comfortable and content, but there's going to come a point where they're going to realize after crunching the numbers, they've been wasting time for years, making very little money, wasting time for years. They could have spent that time going to their child's basketball game or football game or soccer practice rather than wasting it on an endless, fruitless endeavor. That's why it's so important to analyze how you're doing in your sales, how you're doing in your marketing strategy, and pivoting so that way you have a better strategy and a better game plan that generally will lead to more profitability. Because again, I tell people this, there is no point in making farming a business if you're not going to go all in. There is no point in making farming a business when all that time and energy could have been used on your family instead. So let that be a lesson because I've seen people get divorced because of this. I've seen childhoods ruined because of this, and I don't want that for you. So, anyways, next topic. Um, Another common mistake is that they rely on raw product sales. What do I mean by that? As livestock farmers, part of the reason why I prefer being a livestock farmer versus doing organically grown market gardening. I've done both. Um, I just hate the fact that plants die very easily. I can't stand it. So I really appreciate the fact that I can put meat in a freezer and not have to worry about things. And that even if there's a drought, my animals aren't necessarily going to die on the spot. Really great. The issue with this model is that although raw products can be good, the profit margin for raw products, raw meat, is very low in comparison to things like charcuterie, snack sticks, bone broth, and other forms of value adding a raw product. For some of you, you don't have access to someone who can create charcuterie, Dexter charcuterie. Okay, I get it. But there are some of you, even in this group today, who are turning beef tallow into skincare products, right? So again, the tallow is a raw product. In fact, it's a very low margin product depending on where you are. There are those healthy food nuts who will pay their weight in gold for tallow, but for most of the United States of America, tallow does not have a lot of value, right? So turning something that does not have any value and innovating it and diversifying your product list from not just raw meat, but now you also have skincare products with lotions, salts, lip balms, soaps, right? That allows for you to reach a different audience. Because again, people who buy raw meat might not always be interested in buying cosmetics, but people who buy cosmetics might actually be interested in buying raw meat, right? Most of these people want natural skincare solutions. The people who are in that camp also are interested in natural health remedies, natural health, natural diets. So again, there's that cross pollination. You're entering into a different market, but you're able to use that different market, leverage your product, and bring people who are somewhat in the similar niche, right? They're more into skincare products, but they also have an interest in having a healthy body, a healthy temple, so to speak, and they want to use your Dexter cattle beef to do that. Common mistake number three is no hands-on learning nor experiences. This is where we get into agritourism and agroeducation. These things these things are very vital. The reason why I say that is because this is where your community has an opportunity to engage with you in a more deep, intimate way. Part of what we'll talk about in business is, you always want to have different levels, different tiers of experiences when you're dealing with customers. Some customers, they're just going to buy raw meat from you. That's it. That's all they really care to do. Some customers, if you give them the opportunity for let's say a farm field day, and it's just a $50 admission to a farm field day, where they get to learn kind of behind the scenes what you're doing on your property. Well, guess what? Not everyone's going to buy into that, but there are some that if you created the offer would totally go for it. They're already excited about your meat. They'd love to actually see like how you actually produce beef and any of the other things that you're doing. For some, they want something a little bit more immersive, right? More than just a farm field day. If you're doing raw milk, they might be interested in actually raising their own dairy cow, having their own little micro dairy, so to speak. Cool, great. Let's create a 1 day, 2 hour, 3 hour, 5 hour, whatever your time commitment looks like, course on how people in your local area or nearby area, you even have people who will come states away if you have a good online presence, who will come to your course for the day. And we got folks who will charge $150, and we got folks in my camp who will charge $2,000 for the experience. That's a lot of money. Just you don't even have to go to the farmer's market. Let that sink in. You do not have to go to a farmer's market. Some of you are like, ah, I'm so sick and tired of going to farmers markets. I like it. It's a great opportunity. I get to, shake hands, kiss babies, but, all the work that goes into setting up, prepping, I have to do stuff the night before. I'm just coming off my job. It's a lot of time, a lot of energy. Well, then what can I do in innovation? What can I do to be attractive to my audience, nearby, local, and maybe even abroad, to bring them onto the farm? Not just to sell meat, but also to sell experiences. Some of my clients, one thing I've told them to implement is other aspects of agritourism. It doesn't always have to be about Dexter's, right? Now, I'm not saying this to be sacrilegious. This is a ADCA meeting, right? So, I'm not trying to, ruffle any feathers. But what if you grew sunflowers? Had a sunflower patch near the if you're on a road, have a sunflower patch. And guess what? I teach people, hey, find your local photographers, cut a deal with them, because guess what? Oh, people who are about to get married, people who are, want to take graduation photos, people who are just want to celebrate a life event, maybe a baby announcement, they're going to be interested in very unique sceneries. They're sick and tired of these basic uh, photos in the city or, out by the porch or behind a big brick wall behind them. If they can have a flower field behind them to celebrate their moment, whatever that moment is, they're going to be more interested and they're going to be more interested in paying for that, right? So we got folks who are leveraging their land, beautifying it, getting partnerships with local photographers, other entertainment folks, and allowing them to co-share that space for a price. So that way, that land, which could have been utilized for something, actually generates more value than even if you had an animal on it. Again, we got folks who are making literally thousands of dollars just allowing photographers to take pictures on their property. Maybe you can do that too. Again, innovation, diversifying, it's another income stream. Um, so what can you do? You can leverage economy of scale. What I mean by that is if you're small scale, you will struggle when it comes to your buying power. If you notice, if you buy hay by the bale versus buying bales at a time, usually the price changes, right? You're able to usually get a discount if you're buying in bulk, right? So bulk buying is powerful, but if you're so small scale, bulk buying might be cost prohibitive. So for people who are maybe you don't want to go into agritourism, I get it. You don't like people. It's okay. There's some people who just genuinely don't like people. Now, I would say, hey, maybe we need to work on why you don't like people. If there's been some hurt and trauma, maybe we need to heal from that first before we just discount all of humanity, right? And that's a fair point. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but not all people are bad, right? There are actually some really good, fun people out there. They're not perfect, but hell, you're not perfect either, and that is okay. It's totally okay. So that's something to consider is like, how can I make sure that I'm growing my herd size, right? You don't want agritourism, okay. You don't want agroeducation, okay, I get it. You don't have access for value-added products, okay. Well, if you're not going to embrace agritourism, you're not going to embrace agroeducation, if you're not going to embrace value-added products, then your only option, well, there might be some other smaller options, but your only main big option is to increase the size and scale of your production, right? That usually requires more land, more capital, and more labor. If you have access to all three of these things and you don't want to be a public face at all, cool. You might want to consider maybe scaling up your herd, scaling up your land to accommodate to that. That is an option. It's not my preferred option because I've been there, I've done that, and it's just for me a lot more work. I actually love people, so I'd rather make money through the love of loving people than through just scaling up production. Been there, done that. You can make it work, but it's a lot of work, at least for me. Another thing that people can do is create broader market products. Again, going back to these skincare, beef tallow skincare products, right? Diversifying and broadening out your markets from just not just raw meat, but um, from skincare, from raw meat and dairy, raw meat and a butchery class, right? Again, I already told y'all earlier, early in our sessions that um, there are folks who are charging $250 all the way up to $1,000 just for people to attend. That's per person, by the way, just for people to attend and learn how to butcher a cow. With Dexters, it's even better because the Angus are super big and a nightmare to butcher. It's just too time consuming. But the Dexter is very manageable. It's a very easy way to show people how to butcher cattle. And that's the advantage that you have. I'll make that very clear. That is the advantage that you, as Dexter breeders and Dexter owners, have that the Angus, Brangus, whatever folk don't have. You have that advantage. Leverage it. Because if you show people, oh, hey, did you know that you can, butcher your own cow? Hey, let me show you how to break down how to break down and butcher a cow for yourself. Hey, did you know it's actually pretty easy, or easier to raise Dexter compared to most other breeds, cattle breeds? Oh, are you interested in buying seed stock? Oh, you're interested in buying one of my steers? When they're able to see the quality of the carcass and then also taste it, a lot of people are sold. Why? Because they're not looking at raw meat. You just created a memory with these people. You just created an experience with these people. That's what's actually important. That's the part of innovation that I try to encourage people to look at. Stop just thinking of innovation just being, I need to innovate products. You need to innovate yourself. Innovate yourself. Some of you, you have limiting beliefs about yourself. Oh, I'm not a people person. Who told you that? Who told you you're not a people person? Are you really not a people person, or are you just scared because you've been rejected often enough to where you don't want to be around people? Some of you, you have been betrayed and you just don't want to be bothered by people because it hurts too much. I get it. I understand it. Been there. I have been there. And I can tell you on the other end of that healing journey, it is worth it. Again, there are more people out there who want to be on your side than be on opposite sides to be your enemy. So you might actually be a people person. I actually believe that people were created to like other people. So if you have that limiting belief about yourself, innovate out of it. Don't settle for toxic people. Find people who actually will encourage you. Sometimes that means looking outside of your immediate or your extended family to get the support that you need. That is okay. That is okay. As long as there are boundaries and stuff like that. I'm not talking about having, affairs and whatever, but it's okay. Sometimes your family, they're just not going to be the support that you always wanted. Again, been there, done that. If I listened to everything my mom told me, I would not be here right now living my best life. I'd be working in corporate America as a slave, and I would be depressed, I would be miserable, and I would be suicidal. I don't have to live that life anymore because I stopped listening to my mama and start being around people who actually supported the vision that I believe God gave me for my life. And you know what's funny? After demonstrating living out the life, despite how hard it was, the life that I was called to live, my mom started to turn around. She didn't think this whole farming stuff was a stupid idea anymore. Now she's actually interested in buying land and having her own homestead. So again, limiting belief is I can't impact people. I'm not important. Yes, you are. You are important. But it starts by stop telling yourself these lies. Some of you, your parents told these lies to you, and you just kept holding on to you. Again, for some of y'all got ex-spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, and they told you that, and you just held on to that. You don't have to believe those lies. You are important. You are valuable. You can grow beyond your limitations. Yes, you can. Anyways, we got some questions for tonight. So I'm going to put y'all in some breakout rooms. And I'm actually going to let y'all do two questions starting out, and then we'll go do question number three at the end. So it'll be the second breakout room. So question number one, what new products or experiences could attract more customers while staying true to your mission? And number two, how can local or industry partners help you expand and stabilize income? Now, that part, just to create some clarity in that, that part is really looking at thinking outside of yourself, right? So again, I use the gym example at one point. You're raising, let's say you're raising Dexters for primarily for beef. Maybe you're doing raw milk on the side or something like that too. And you could go to a farmer's market and sell that stuff. Well, maybe not the raw milk, depends on where you're at. But you can go and sell raw products at a farmer's market, but you're still kind of isolated. You're still kind of siloed in, right? But creating local partnerships, maybe a gym. Hey, gym owner, I noticed that I sell products that your customers actually might be interested in. Here, let me tell you a little bit about that and how that relates to your customers' goals for their life, goals for their health. Again, gym owners listening, thinking, okay, 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 cool. I like what you're talking about. I like the mission you got going on. I think what you're selling would be in alignment with my goals as a gym owner and in alignment with my customers, my clients, the gym members. So, what kind of deal would you like to have? All right. Now, usually they're not going to say what kind of deal you want to have. You have to already come up with a deal beforehand. Creating discount codes or little discount stickers that they can bring to the farmers market or to your property, whatever is convenient for them, not you, but for them. Um, there are 1,001 ways of being able to create a partnership with other people. You're scratching their back, they're scratching your back, and everyone's a big happy family because they're both making money. You're making money, they're making money, right? That's what matters. Well, let me phrase that. What matters is your impact. What matters is that you have alignment with the consumer, the person who's using your end product. As long as they're happy, cool, great. That means you're doing a good job and making sure that you are fairly compensated for that, both in the partnerships, is going to be really important. So again, number two, how can local or industry partnerships help you expand and stabilize income? All right, so I'm going to have y'all into breakout rooms. So, anyone like to share their experience?
I'll go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead, Denise.
So I was just going to say, when we were talking about, innovating and finding ways to do different things and partnerships, I'm actually currently working to partner with a local RV park to offer like baby goat experiences. So that's something new we're doing.
Cool, sweet. I like that baby goat experiences. I met this one lady in Indiana, and she was doing like this is basically like a petting zoo. She brought like some baby farm animals and had like a little petting zoo at the farmer's market. And she made more money than anyone who actually sold any products. Let that sink in. This woman made, there are times when she made thousands. in the $1,000 mark, but she'd make several $100 just allowing kids a little petting zoo with the farm animals. So some of y'all might want to consider that too as an option. Kimberly, what did you got in mind?
Oh, we were just sort of saying we mostly talked about providing experiences on the farm, like setting up a beautiful like picture area. And the way I don't the way I there's one Carol was talking about like flowers and having it picturesque. But I was also thinking like more fall like with the some hay bales and a backdrop and things that can sit outside, and you could bring a cow over and have somebody holding a chicken or something, make it kind of fun, and people would love to be able to take photos there, even if it's just them taking the photo themselves. They come for their farm tour, they pay for all of that, and then they pay to have an opportunity to take their photos there. I mentioned something about how I've toyed with the idea of having, because we have enough land to have some smaller like Airbnb cabins, and then having people stay for a weekend where we have, they sell the farm life. They come to experience what it's like to be on the farm. We could get them on the tractor, even if it's moving dirt from one pile to another, or going out and actually brush hogging. And not that they'd have to do it for hours on end, but just get an experience of what it's like. They could do the farm chores, milking the cow, collecting the eggs, feeding the chickens. Um, just anything that you're doing, even if it's as simple as, we're going to be this weekend, we're going to be doing, fencing. If you want to learn how to put up some fence posts and run barbed wire, this is the weekend to do it, and see if people want to sign up to get it done. I think it would be beneficial. And then you've got free labor. Well, actually, labor that paid you,
Amen. Labor that pays you. That's a dream right there. That's a dream.
right?
Uh, Tim, oh, sorry, yeah, Tim. Yeah, Tim says my feelings sort echoes Kimberly's. We don't have inventory to provide meat for restaurants or grocery stores. And let me tell you something, as someone who sold to restaurant and grocery stores, those are markets for people who are moving hun several hundred, if not thousands of pounds of meat and produce. You want to add that in there. Um, they're not for people who only got two cows. They just ain't. There's not even the profit margin really doesn't make sense from that standpoint. So yeah, definitely like your comment, Tim. Someone put a comment in chat a moment ago. It was Bob. Bob. Bob says, "Hi. What would you do with the beef after one of those butchering classes, since it won't be USDA?" Good question. There are some ways. It depends on your state, but there are some ways. Also, you mentioned USC. I want to make one thing clear. Um, you got three tiers for meat processing. You have uh, county level inspection, which usually that will be exempt, right? Local exempt. That's usually the meat where you go. The same people who are butchering and grinding up your deer, right? Your wild game. These are the same people. Usually the meat will say not for sale. Cool, great. Then you have your state level inspection. Not all states have this, but if you do have a state where you can sell within the state that it's been processed in, and only in that state. Then you have USDA, where once processed, it can be sold all throughout the United States of America. So it doesn't necessarily have to be USDA. There are a lot of people who will write in the butchery service agreement, not service agreement, butchery experience, that either they get a portion of that, and it's not like, oh, they're paying for the meat. That's not it. It's not it. It's they'll have like part ownership of that cow, so to speak, through that process. Or they don't get anything, and that's just your meat. You just get to eat the meat. They just helped you butchery. Now you get to take, now you get to eat it for yourself. And they paid you 250, $500 to feed you. All right, anyways. Anyone else who has any comments or questions? Also going to check the chat. Darlene Bethany Farm says, how do you decide what to charge for these experiences? That is a excellent question, Darlene Bethany Farms. Um, it depends. It depends on the experience. I think that's the main thing. Some experiences are more intimate or more hands-on than others. So a farm field day, I just got folks, usually farmers, interested local people. They're going to come to the property. They're going to go on the tour. You can charge 25 bucks. In fact, part of the partnerships and institutional partnerships is you can actually work with cooperative extension at the county level and even at the state level, but about every county should have a ag cooperative extension office, and they can actually do most of the logistics for you, right? And you just get paid on the back end. Did you know that? Again, partnerships, local partnerships, they can do all the logistics for you because they are focused on education. So you align with their desire to educate other farmers because you're allowing your property to be a education site for a day, right? You can create a contract where your local extension office will pay you X amount of money. Could usually it's going to be in the hundreds, depending on the size of the group. Or you can say, hey, just every person that comes, I want 20 bucks. Whatever the final price you decide on, doesn't matter. I want 20 bucks a person. They could do 45 bucks. And you get 20 bucks out of that 45. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Um, So farm field days are a low experience, not a lot of investment. I'm just showing you around. Not, I'm teaching, but I'm not giving you anything hands-on. Doing a butchery class, very hands-on. Also, farmer field day, I can have a lot of people. Butchery class, I can't have a lot of people. It's going to be a handful of people to do it effectively. Some of you, maybe you don't want to go into butchery, but you are great at sourdough. Again, we got people charging $250 for a sourdough class for like 2 hours. Maybe you can teach sourdough. You don't have to do butchery. You can teach sourdough if you're good at sourdough. You got a micro dairy. You can do that. So it depends on your market as well. Uh, if you are near a major city by 30 minutes to an hour, you have a better shot at having a larger price for it. If you are 3 hours away from a major city and everyone around you is poor, economically speaking, like demographic statistics speaking, uh, then you probably can't charge top dollar. And I'd even dare say that you would have to change the experience to match the needs of your local community. So it looked different, right? So it just depends on what you're around, who you're around, and your bandwidth. But if you're near a major city or you built fame, social media fame, you've attracted the following, they know your cows' names because they're little cow personalities now on the internet. People will fly to see people's animals. I'm not exaggerating. They really will. Some people are really that, not crazy, but devoted, dedicated, in love. So think about that. Let's see what we're doing on time. I'm going to put y'all in another breakout session. So I want to go back, share my screen real quick for our last question because we ran out of time. I talked too much. My apologies. Um, Question number three, last one for tonight. What strategies work best for educating customers about your product value and how has it affected sales? So this is not the same as I have to convince the customer to buy my products, right? It's just being able to articulate why your product is valuable, why your product is worthwhile. And it's coming from a place of victory. I'll make that very clear. There's a difference between fighting for the sake of victory and operating from a place of victory, right? Let's look at relationship dynamics. A lot of toxic relationships are people fighting for victory. Let that sink in. People who are fighting for victory, usually over one another. However, when you operate from a place of victory, like, man, I'm already winning at life. Man, I already have abundance, even if it doesn't look like I have abundance. How you act and how you treat people is very different. You're not desperate. Again, people who are fighting for the sake of victory, they're desperate. A lot of them are desperate. People who are operating from a place of victory, they're not desperate. They're at peace with who they are and what they provide. They have acceptance. And that's why, oh, it's so great to be around them as a customer versus the desperate farmer where it's like, they're really cringy because I know they're trying to make a buck off me, right? So again, fighting from a place, fighting from for the sake of victory is not the same as fighting or it's not the same as operating from a place of victory, right? You're one with yourself, you're whole. So when you're looking at it from the same standpoint, you're not arguing with your customer. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you are just articulating your product and why it has value. That's simply it. All right. Anyways, I'm going to put y'all in breakout rooms real quick. So hold on. Let me stop sharing. I'm back to the question. Question is, what strategies work best for educating customers about your product value and how has it affected sales? So who would like to either share kind of what's worked for them or who would like to ask a question? Maybe you're trying to figure that out. You don't know what that looks like necessarily. Let us help you. I'll keep my mouth quiet. That way other people can talk. But yeah, I wanna hear from y'all. What you got?
One of the things we did, that guy Colin Brown that you know, um, he's a chef and he's a friend of mine, and so we had meals once a month for about 5 months in a row, where we just invited five people, five couples over, and had a good dinner, 4 course, 3 course dinner with different things from a beef. And one of the ideas was to help them know what to do with the offal, because a lot of people didn't know, they were leaving the tongue or the heart or the liver. They weren't getting the full impact of what they were buying from us. So that worked well, and I think we still have some of those customers with us.
That's awesome, Jeff. And what I love about that is the customers are actually you're creating an opportunity for them to get to know you, right?
Hmm.
You're not just a farmer, you're like an actual human being with a soul, with a beating pulse, and with a story. So I like that. All right, what else we got? Who else wants to share or ask a question?
Somewhat off topic, but I'm curious. Uh, one of my wife's great joys in life is charcuterie. And when we initially got our place, we're on 50 acres, so it's of a scale that is kind of tricky. It's kind of big and kind of small at the same time. It, but anyway, so it's pretty clear that value added production is the only path towards profitability at this scale. Um, but with it seems like, and maybe it's state by state, but it seems like the charcuterie stuff, cured meats and things, there's an extra layer of oversight and regulation. Um, can maybe if perhaps that's in another video that's already been covered, or that'll be coming down the pike in the future. I'm okay waiting, but if you'd like to speak to that in any, briefly, I'd be happy to hear about it.
Yeah, great question. That was Brett. Yeah, it's Brett, right? Brett? Yeah, I think it's Brett. Great question, Brett. It's not even just a regular because there are different ways you can look at charcuterie, but if we're looking at it the European Italian style, there's also this inoculation of different cultures, molds, well, fungi, that are involved. So that can create another level of food safety complication. But most inspectors are the issue with the inspection process. A lot of inspectors are not as familiar with charcuterie making. And then the other issue that you run into is people who actually know how to do it well. I think that's more of a hurdle than the inspection part. It's just people who actually know how to do it well without messing up the batches or killing somebody. Um, so that's why some people have stayed away from classic charcuterie and have gone more into the snack stick market. Chomps, good example, right? The portfolio economic value for Chomps is astronomical. They're making so much money selling a beef stick. I went to Walmart one day. I don't like going to Walmart, but I went there one day to get a couple items, and I saw a chop stick for $2.30. I think that might have been a 2 ounce stick. 2 ounces for $2. What? What? Huh? Little stick. I think it might have been an ounce though. So they're making good money per ounce, where people are failing per pound. So hopefully that answers your question. We can keep talking about that. See, anyone else got a question or want to share something that they do that's allowed to be successful when it comes to this question?
I shared about how I think that nobody does, well, okay, I would like to think that none of us do anything we don't love doing, right? And so whatever product you're making, whatever you're growing or harvesting, it's because you want it for yourself, right? And so there's a reason you want it. And I think that when you talk to people about why you started doing what you're doing, tell them about your story. I grew up next to the Mall of America. I never thought in a million years I'd end up on a farm, and it was me that wanted the milk cow. So people find humor in that. I married a farm boy, so I always tell him, you see this lifestyle that we have, you created this. I mean, this is all your fault. We got into debt with cows because of you. No, I'm just kidding. But but people laugh, they think they enjoy it, they build that relationship with you and what you're doing, and then you can say, okay, and this is why we started doing this. Whether it's started providing milk for our family because it was nourishing, it was healing our guts, or for my case, I make soap because I had eczema on my hands, and then a lot of people have skin issues, so they're like, oh gosh, you have a soap for that? And then, you're building that relationship and you're talking about these are why I make these products. It's not just to save money or get money, it's to provide a service.
Well said, Kimberly. Well said. Two things from that is you're not selling a product, you're selling a story. And I think that's where a lot of farmers mess up is they're so focused on the product that they don't realize people don't care about the product. They care about the story behind the product. They care about your story to an extent if it's relatable to their experiences. And then two, one thing you mentioned I thought was really good is um, the products came from a place of solving a problem. I wonder if this product could also solve someone else's problem. Oh, turns out it does, right? So another thing that's really important when you're producing a product is, again, we talked about this early on, when you're doing your market analysis, when you're trying to figure out what your niche should be, you need to make sure that the product that you're willing to produce is actually something that people need. People are producing a lot of products that no one cares about, absolutely at all, right? So if your immediate community or the community that you want to sell to has no need for your products, why are you selling the product then? Either find a different community or innovate, diversify, change your product offering, add more that people actually really are interested in, whether it's an actual product, a service, or an experience. All right, I think that'll be it for the recording time. Again, we're going to have a parking lot meeting where we just get to continue to talk. Um, but for the sake of recording, I'm going to call it a day with this. So thank y'all for showing up. ADCA board, do we have any announcements that you want before we shut down?
Nope, I don't think so.
Cool, perfect. All right. And again, for leave, make this really quick. Those limiting beliefs I talked about earlier. If you have some, do not wallow in shame at the fact that you have limiting beliefs about yourself. That's not operating the solution, that's operating in a problem. Don't live in shame about it. Elevate above it. Acknowledge you got these limiting beliefs and work through them. You also don't work through all of them alone. You're going to need help in some of them. Feel free to ask for help, whatever that's supposed to look like. I'll let you define that for yourself. But there is hope. You can get through this, but you gotta be honest with yourself and you gotta move forward. All right. Anyways, that's it. So I'm gonna stop the recording